You were never meant to see the truth this clearly, because once you do, you'll never look at people, power, or morality the same way again. What I'm about to tell you is something that rulers, manipulators, and the powerful elite have always known. And they've always hidden it from you, not because it's complicated, but because it's too dark, because it shatters the illusion you were raised to believe in. We live in a world built on comfort, emotion, and lies. You were told to be kind, to be fair, to forgive, to trust, but those who told you this don't follow it themselves. They play a different game, a colder one, a game of control. And you were trained to lose before you even started? Machiavelli once wrote that power is not about morality, it's about perception. It's not about what's right, it's about what works. And the moment you understand that, you stop living like a pawn. You start seeing the board. Look around you. Every friendship, every alliance, every kind word, it's a transaction. People give affection when it benefits them. They show loyalty when they need protection. They offer kindness when it strengthens their image. The moment you stop being useful, you vanish from their thoughts. The world forgets the weak quickly. Machiavelli warned, never depend on gratitude, never expect fairness, because human memory is short and self-interest never sleeps. Those who win in this world understand that truth, and they use it like a blade. There is a darkness that most people can't face. Morality is a luxury only the powerful can afford. When you're weak, you must be moral. When you're strong, morality becomes optional. That's the cruel symmetry of life. You were told to be honest, but honesty is a weapon that only the powerful can use safely. For the weak, honesty is exposure. It gives others the map to your fears, your insecurities, your soft spots, and the world will strike there without hesitation. The truth is, deception is not evil, it's survival. The one who hides his intentions lives longer. The one who reveals his heart dies quicker. Machiavelli called it the necessary art of disguise. You smile when you must, agree when you should, and strike only when it matters. But here's the darkest warning of all. The crowd will always hate what it cannot understand. Once you become too intelligent, too calm, too detached, you terrify people. Because your silence reveals their noise, your control exposes their chaos. Your indifference destroys their illusion of importance. They will call you heartless, arrogant, cold. They will whisper that you've changed. And they're right, you have. You've seen the machine behind the curtain. You've seen the truth they can't handle. The weak fear reality, so they build stories about fairness, karma, divine justice, but life doesn't work that way. The strong write the rules, the weak follow them, the brave bend them, and the wise pretend to obey while quietly taking everything they want. Machiavelli's warning was simple: never show all your cards. Never let anyone fully understand you. Mystery is a kind of armor. If people can't predict you, they can't control you. And that's why the most dangerous person is not the strongest. It's the one you can't read. Every empire in history fell not because of external enemies, but internal trust. Betrayal always comes from within, from the friend who smiles, the ally who waits, the follower who learns your rhythm. That's why true power demands solitude. You must walk alone, not because you hate people, but because you understand them. Control yourself before you try to control the world. You can't rule others if you can't command your own mind. Your emotions are levers. Whoever controls them, controls you. The moment anger decides for you, someone else wins. The moment fear stops you, someone else advances. And the moment love blinds you, someone else owns you. To survive, you must learn to think like a chess player. Detached, observant, strategic. Never move out of impulse. Never speak from emotion. Every word, every silence must serve a purpose. Because every moment you're being watched, measured, and judged. Most people chase approval, but approval is the cheapest drug. It feels good, but it weakens you. It turns lions into pets. It teaches you to smile when you want to roar, to stay quiet when you should walk away. But once you stop caring about being liked, you become unstoppable. You become free. Freedom is not comfort, it's control. It's the ability to walk away from anything or anyone that disturbs your peace. It's not about having nothing to lose. It's about being untouchable. Because the one who needs nothing cannot be controlled by anything. That's the essence of the darkness. Machiavelli hinted at the freedom born from detachment. When you stop expecting fairness, you stop being disappointed. When you stop needing validation, you stop being manipulated. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving others power over you. But there's a cost to this awareness. You'll lose people who once smiled at you. You'll outgrow the world you once believed in. You'll walk among crowds yet feel distant. Because when you see everything clearly, connection becomes difficult. How do you trust what you can see through? That loneliness, that cold distance, is the price of power. Most people run from it, but the wise learn to make peace with it. They turn solitude into strength. They understand that isolation isn't emptiness, it's refinement. Machiavelli warned rulers to be feared rather than loved, because love fades, but fear endures. And yet, the true secret is balance. To appear kind but remain unyielding. To offer trust but never depend on it. Be warm when needed but ruthless when tested. Show emotion when it serves a purpose but never let it rule your actions. You must become two people, the mask and the truth. The world sees the mask, but only you know the truth beneath it. That duality is what keeps you alive in a world that feeds on the naive. You're not supposed to know this. You're supposed to believe the fairy tales that good always wins, that truth always triumphs, that sincerity is enough. But look around. Who holds the power, the kind or the cunning, the honest or the strategic, the emotional or the detached? Reality rewards clarity, not morality, and those who understand that rule quietly while others dream loudly. So when you hear someone tell you to always be yourself, remember that's what the world tells those it wants to control. The wise become who they need to be when they need to be. Adaptation isn't hypocrisy. It's survival. You're not supposed to know this because once you do, you can't be managed. You become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. So learn to watch without reacting. Listen without revealing. Act without announcing. The quietest move often has the loudest impact. The world doesn't run on truth. It runs on perception, and the one who controls perception controls reality. That's the final warning Machiavelli left between the lines. Never play the game emotionally, play it intelligently. Because emotion blinds, but strategy sees everything. And once you see everything, you can never go back. You'll stand in the shadows, calm, unreadable, watching others fight over illusions you left behind long ago. You'll understand the world isn't kind or cruel, it's just calculated. And the ones who survive aren't the good? They're the aware. You were never meant to see the truth this clearly because once you do, you'll never look at people, power, or morality the same way again. Rulers and manipulators have always known this, and they've hidden it from you. Not because it's complicated, but because it shatters the illusions you were raised to believe in. You were told to be kind, to be fair, to trust. But those who told you this play a different game, a colder one, a game of control. Machiavelli wrote that power isn't about what's right, it's about what works. The moment you understand that, you stop living like a pawn and start seeing the entire board. Look around. Every friendship, every alliance, every kind word, it's a transaction. The world forgets the weak quickly. Honesty is a weapon only the powerful can use safely. For everyone else, it's a map to your fears. The truth is, deception isn't evil. It's survival. Awareness is the beginning of your transformation. It's the moment your eyes finally adjust to the darkness that everyone else fears, and you start to see how predictable human nature really is. Every single person is moved by the same few levers: fear, desire, pride, greed. Push any of these and you can guide anyone. This is the hidden architecture of power. While most people are out there chasing love or fame, the true strategist studies behavior. They learn what motivates people and what breaks them. They observe how even the strongest among us will bend under the right kind of pressure. A strategist listens far more than they speak. They act only when the timing is perfect and vanish the moment chaos erupts. That isn't luck. That is mastery. You're not supposed to learn this. Because if you did, you would stop being controlled by empty promises, cheap compliments, or weaponized guilt. You'd stop reacting emotionally and start calculating logically. The moment you see people as they truly are, not as they pretend to be, you become untouchable. You realize that the very same words people use to praise you today will be used to condemn you tomorrow. Loyalty and betrayal are just two sides of the same coin. Both are temporary and both are tools. This is the fundamental rhythm of power: use and be used, but never, ever emotionally. Most people crave simplicity. They want clear good guys and bad guys, heroes and villains. But real life is painted in shades of gray. The hero of one story can easily become the tyrant of the next, and the villain might just be a savior in disguise. Motives are never pure. Every act of kindness hides a reason. Every apology hides a calculation. When you finally understand this, you no longer hate people for being selfish. You simply learn how to work around their nature. You stop expecting purity in a world that was never designed to be pure. Machiavelli whispered a timeless truth. It's not cruelty that destroys leaders, it's hesitation. The failure to act when the time is right. The deep-seated fear of being hated. You can't lead if you are desperate to be loved. The world respects those who decide, even if they decide coldly. The hesitant are eaten alive by their own indecision, because the world does not slow down for those who doubt. To live by this dark wisdom means you will carry a certain stillness inside you. You will appear calm on the surface, but your mind will be alive, constantly observing. You'll start noticing the micro-expressions that flash across faces, the subtle changes in tone, the hidden motives buried in every word. You'll see patterns repeat themselves endlessly: friends turning into enemies, lovers turning into strangers, the faithful turning into opportunists. And soon you'll stop being shocked by it all. You'll start being ready, and that readiness changes everything. You stop pleading with life to be fair. You begin to play the game with awareness. You start to use disappointment as information. You use pain as training. You use silence as a weapon. You quickly realize that the person who can stay silent the longest is the one who controls the room. Words often reveal weakness. Restraint builds an aura of mystery and power. The world trains you to rush, to react, to be impulsive, but true power hides in patience. The wise move slowly, because time has a way of exposing everything. Your enemies will often destroy themselves through their own impatience. They reveal their strategy by talking too much, by showing their hand too soon. You, however, you wait. You let them reveal their entire plan, and then you strike only once perfectly. That is how quiet power operates. But don't mistake this darkness for evil. This isn't about destruction. It's about control. It's about mastering yourself so completely that no manipulation can ever touch you. This path is not one of chaos, it's one of absolute clarity. It's the stripping away of every illusion until only the raw, cold truth remains. And that truth, while cold, is incredibly freeing. Once you've walked through it, you don't return to innocence, you evolve beyond it. Most people will never reach that point. They will stay comfortably asleep, clinging to the warmth of their ideals. But if you've listened this far, it means you've already crossed the line. You're beginning to see the world as it truly is. You're no longer asking, why are people like this? You're starting to ask, how can I use this? That single question is what separates the dreamers from the rulers. So remember this, every person you meet is wearing a mask. Even you. The secret isn't to tear the masks off, but to learn what each one hides. To know when to play the fool, when to play the saint, and when to play the monster. Power belongs to those who can shift shapes without losing themselves. The world belongs to those who can dance with the dark and remain calm in its presence. And that, perhaps, is Machiavelli's final warning: learn to hold light and shadow in the same hand. Show the world your warmth, but never reveal your fire. Smile when you must, stay silent when you can, and act only when the world least expects it. Because by the time they realize what you truly are, it will already be too late. If this resonated with you and you're ready to see the world with new eyes, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We're just getting started. Thanks for watching. Have you ever felt like you're just reacting to life, always a step behind? What if I told you there's a hidden layer to reality, a silent language of power that, once understood, changes everything? This isn't about manipulation for its own sake. It's about awakening to how the world truly operates. Once you grasp this, you stop just hearing what people say, You start understanding what they truly mean. You stop reacting to their words and start responding to their unspoken intentions. You stop believing in coincidence and start recognizing deliberate design. In the world of control, almost nothing is random. Every smile, every compliment, every silence has a purpose. The majority move unconsciously, but the powerful move deliberately. This is the first layer of awakening. You begin to see how emotion is the oldest form of manipulation. Fear is used to make you obey. Guilt is used to make you stay. Even love, in the wrong hands, can be used to make you surrender. Society often calls these virtues, but they can become chains dressed as flowers. The person who learns to master their own emotions becomes immune to the tricks of the world. When you no longer crave external approval, no one can seduce you with flattery. When you no longer fear loss, no one can threaten you with their absence. And paradoxically, when you no longer desperately crave control, you become the one who truly holds it. As the philosopher Machiavelli understood, most people don't want the raw, unfiltered truth, they want reassurance. They want to be told they're good, they're safe, they're on the right path. But leaders and thinkers must walk a different road, the path of seeing. To see without judgment, to watch without reacting, and to know without needing to speak. This is the art of invisible power. Once you master that, your silence becomes heavier than their shouting. Real power doesn't announce itself with a trumpet. It hides behind still eyes and steady hands. It has no need to prove anything because it already knows its own value. Think about it. The loudest person in the room is often the weakest, trying to compensate for their own insecurity. True authority doesn't need noise. It's felt, not heard. You walk into a room and people feel your presence, though they can't quite explain why. This isn't magic, it's presence. A presence built through discipline, through the careful control of every word, every gesture, and every emotion. The world is full of actors pretending to be leaders, shouting their confidence to mask their deep-seated insecurity. But the one who understands this colder, wiser perspective has no need for a pretense. They lead through calm, focused energy. People follow them not because they command it, but because they make others feel seen, understood, and subtly guided. True influence isn't about brute force, it's about quiet direction. Here's a fundamental secret. People crave certainty. They fear confusion and ambiguity. Therefore, they will naturally gravitate toward the person who appears most certain. Even if you have doubts, you never show them. You appear confident even when you're unsure. You appear calm even in the middle of chaos. You appear in control even when the world feels like it's burning down. Why? Because perception shapes reality far more powerfully than objective truth ever will. This is the secret every great strategist and leader has used since the dawn of civilization. But this control must be anchored to something deeper, a purpose. Without a clear why, power becomes a poison, corrupting from within. Machiavelli never admired cruelty for its own sake. He admired precision, the ability to act decisively and without hesitation when the moment demands it. This cold wisdom isn't about destroying others. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that nothing can destroy you. It's about building a mind that is sharper than the world's endless stream of lies and distractions. When you reach that level of self-mastery, your entire dynamic with the world shifts. You stop chasing people. You stop begging for closure. You stop fighting for a sliver of attention. You become the storm that others must adapt to. Your silence becomes your greatest weapon. Your detachment becomes your strongest armor. Your discipline becomes your ultimate power. But here's the final twist, the part that many get wrong. When you detach, when you stop needing, when you rise above the turbulence of emotion, you don't become heartless. You simply become precise. You can still love, but without losing yourself in the process. You can still help others, but without allowing yourself to be drained. You can still feel deeply, but without being controlled by those feelings. That is the great paradox of this wisdom. It doesn't kill your heart. It teaches it discipline. And once you taste that incredible balance, you understand why this knowledge is so closely guarded. Because a person who cannot be emotionally manipulated cannot be easily controlled. A person who can't be bribed with comfort or threatened with loss becomes dangerously independent. That kind of person doesn't start revolutions with violence, they start them with awareness. The lesson from thinkers like Machiavelli wasn't to destroy morality, it was to outgrow illusion. To stop believing the world is inherently fair, and to start using its unfairness intelligently. To understand that people do and act purely out of goodness or evil, they act out of their own perceived necessity. Once you truly see that, you stop taking things so personally. Betrayal no longer surprises you. Lies no longer wound you as deeply. You simply nod, take note, and move forward with your plan. That is when you become what the world secretly fears most, a person who cannot be broken. The storms that destroy others only serve to refine you. The darkness that blinds other people only sharpens your sight. The loneliness that drives others to madness becomes your sanctuary for deep thought and meditation. And when you reach that point, something incredible happens. The game stops controlling you. You start controlling the game. You no longer react to life, you begin to orchestrate it. You move in silence, and the world subtly adjusts to your will. You no longer seek approval, you grant it. You no longer chase opportunities, you create them. This is the secret hidden in plain sight, the truth behind every powerful figure history has ever known. They weren't just lucky. They weren't divinely blessed. They were simply awake. They saw the darkness in the world and in human nature, they understood it, and they learned to use it without letting it consume them. You're not supposed to know this, because if you did, you'd never need to ask for anyone's permission ever again. You'd stop obeying rules meant to keep you in your place and start writing your own. You'd stop begging the world for fairness and start crafting your own fate with cold, hard precision. You'd stop being afraid of the dark and start using it to your advantage. And once that happens, you no longer just live in the world begins to live in yours. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that challenges the way you see the world. Stay awake. Ever reach a point where the darkness stops feeling dark? It becomes familiar, like a silent companion. It's no longer scary. Instead, it teaches you. You realize that fear was never the enemy, it was the map. It showed you your limits, where your illusions lived. Follow it long enough, and it leads you to something colder and clearer than comfort. Truth. And truth, once seen, can never be unseen. You start to understand why most people never find peace. They keep trying to control everything outside themselves. They fight to change others, to fix the world, to rewrite reality. But the wise know that true power doesn't come from controlling the world, it comes from controlling yourself. Once you master that, the world quietly bends around you. Because control of self is control of perception, and perception is what rules the world. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He understood that rulers don't lose because of their enemies, but because of their own reflection. A mind that cannot govern itself will be governed by others. A person who cannot silence their emotions will be silenced by them. That's why the most dangerous battles are never fought on a battlefield, they refought in the mind. Think about how rare silence is in this world. Everyone is talking, posting, performing, pretending. But the powerful don't need to fill the air with words. They move like shadows present but unreadable. They never reveal what they truly want. They don't explain, they don't justify, they don't complain. Their mystery is their throne, and their silence commands more attention than 1,000 speeches. The world teaches you to express yourself. Machiavelli teaches you to withhold yourself. Because once you reveal your heart, it belongs to whoever hears it. Once you explain your pain, it becomes a weapon in someone else's hands. This cold wisdom isn't about closing your heart, it's about choosing who deserves access to it. The more selective you are, the more powerful you become. But here's the truth that breaks most people: isolation. The price of awareness is distance. The more you see, the less you fit in. You'll walk among people, smiling, listening, understanding, and yet you'll know that they are still sleeping. They live in a reality made of wishes, while you walk in one made of truth. You'll feel the weight of that knowledge, and you'll realize why Machiavelli called wisdom dangerous. The moment you see through the illusion, you can no longer take comfort in it. Yet, within that loneliness lies your freedom. Solitude isn't a punishment, it's a purification. It strips away the noise, the distractions, the false faces. In silence, you become something solid. You no longer depend on validation, you no longer need company, and you no longer fear being misunderstood. You understand that people don't have to understand you. Power doesn't ask to be understood. It simply exists. There will come a moment when you stop reacting to betrayal with anger. You'll start greeting it with silence. Because you'll know betrayal isn't personal, it's human. It's just another move in the endless game of self-interest. You'll see patterns repeat until repetition no longer shocks you. And that's when you've truly evolved. Not when you stop feeling, but when you stop being controlled by what you feel. Machiavelli's darkness was never about destruction, it was about endurance. The ability to remain calm when the world burns. The ability to walk through fire without screaming. The ability to look at chaos and say, I will remain unmoved. That is not cruelty. That is mastery. Soon you begin to see through charm. You see through smiles. You see through words meant to flatter or bind you. You see motives like colors behind people's eyes. You recognize hunger, envy, deceit, desperation, all disguised as love, loyalty, or truth, and you stop hating people for it. You simply navigate through it, quietly, effortlessly, unseen. That is when life becomes a game of perception. You don't fight for power, you position yourself for it. You don't demand respect, you radiate it. You don't beg for attention, you draw it naturally because your calm becomes magnetic. People sense that you see more than you say. They feel that you could destroy them with silence alone. And that invisible pressure, that quiet authority, is the truest form of control. In time, you'll realize that Machiavelli's warning was not a curse, it was preparation. He wanted you to understand that survival requires awareness, not innocence. He wanted you to see that morality without power is weakness, and power without morality is chaos. The balance between them, that's the art. To walk through the darkness, see its truth, and still choose precision over cruelty. To know everything and reveal nothing. To love, but never need. To forgive, but never forget. And one day, when you reach that stillness, you will finally understand the deepest truth of all. The darkness was never against you, it was shaping you. Every betrayal, every loss, every silence was chiseling away the parts of you that were fragile. What remained was not bitterness, it was steel. Not hatred, it was focus. Not despair, it was freedom. You'll become what few ever do, a person who cannot be owned, who cannot be manipulated, who cannot be broken. And in a world built on lies, that is the rarest power of all. So keep walking through the darkness. Let it teach you, refine you, rebuild you. Don't fear it, don't run from it. Because one day, when the world tries to pull you back into illusion, you'll smile quietly to yourself and whisper the truth you were never supposed to know. I have seen the game for what it is. And I will never be played again. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. Stay strong and stay aware. There comes a moment when you stop chasing meaning and simply begin to create it. You stop asking why people are cruel, why life is unfair, or why loyalty fades away. You start to accept that these aren't flaws in the world, they are its very design. The world was never built for fairness. It was built for power, for hunger, for survival. And in that raw understanding, you find a strange kind of peace. Not the warm, fuzzy kind, but the kind that feels utterly unbreakable. You realize that good and evil are just labels the weak give to outcomes they can't control. The strong don't waste time labeling things, they adapt. They don't pray for the storm to end. They learn to move within it. This is the truth Machiavelli saw centuries ago. The rulers of the world, the unseen hands, the quiet thinkers, they all learned to see life not as a battle between good and bad, but as a system of cause and effect, cold, impartial, predictable. Once you start seeing the world like this, everything becomes clearer. You see how morality is used as a leash, how guilt is used as a cage, how kindness is often used as a currency. You see how easily people can be guided, not by force, but by their emotions. And then you stop being guided by the same old tricks. You begin to choose your responses like weapons. You decide when to smile, when to remain silent, when to vanish completely. Every action becomes deliberate, precise, purposeful. This is the secret they never wanted you to know. Because a mind that thinks for itself is dangerous. A person who no longer reacts is impossible to control. They wanted you soft, emotional, and dependent. But the moment you begin to think strategically, the illusion collapses. You stop being a participant in the game and become the observer. And the observer, my friend, always wins in the end. But there's something deeper in this supposed darkness, something most people never get to understand. It's not about dominating others. It's not about control over the world. It's about transcendence. The kind of quiet transcendence that comes when you no longer need to win, when you no longer need to be seen, when you are simply beyond it all, beyond praise, beyond judgment, beyond expectation. That's when you reach real power, the power of being untouchable. Machiavelli wrote for princes, but his words were never truly about royalty. They were about human nature, about the quiet struggle within every person who seeks control over themselves. His warning was a mirror. It reflects what you fear most, what you hide, what you deny. It shows you that the line between strength and cruelty, between love and manipulation, between wisdom and madness is far thinner than you think. When you begin to see yourself clearly, stripped of all excuses and illusions, you realize that the same darkness you feared outside has always lived within you. You were not its victim. You were its vessel. And only by facing it head-on can you finally command it. That is the ultimate lesson. The darkness doesn't destroy you, it obeys you. The more you accept this, the calmer you become. You no longer waste your energy trying to prove your worth. You no longer argue, explain, or chase validation from others. You move through the world like a shadow that can't be caught. You speak less, but every word you utter hits deeper. You act less, but every action you take carries immense weight. Because restraint, not reaction, is what defines true strength. People will sense this change in you. They won't know what it is, but they'll feel it, the stillness, the presence, the quiet power. They'll test you, they'll provoke you, they'll try to pull you back into the noise and chaos, but you will remain unmoved. You'll smile and say nothing, because you understand that their chaos cannot touch your inner order. That's when the world begins to turn differently around you. Opportunities start finding their way to you, respect starts following you. A certain aura begins to precede you. Not because you forced it, but because you mastered the one thing that no one else ever does, yourself. And in that mastery lies the final truth. What you once called darkness is now clarity. What you once feared as emptiness is now freedom. What you once thought was cruelty is now control. This is the evolution of awareness. This is the point of no return. The world will still call you heartless, ruthless, or cold, but you will know the truth. You are not cold, you are calm. You are not heartless, you are disciplined. You are not ruthless, you are free. And that simple difference is what separates the kings from the pawns, the awake from the asleep, the architects from the actors. So, when the noise of the world tries to pull you back, remember this moment. Remember that you have seen what others fear to see. You have understood what others deny. You have stepped into that quiet place where true power is born. And when you look back at the world, the lies, the noise, the manipulation, the masks, you'll finally understand why Machiavelli called it a warning. Because once you see the game for what it is, you can never, ever unsee it. You'll walk through life with a quiet smile, knowing that everyone else is still busy chasing illusions, and you have already won, because you now hold the truth they were never supposed to give you. You know that power doesn't shout, it whispers. You know that control doesn't come from force, it comes from silence. And you know that the darkest, most profound wisdom of all is understanding everything and saying nothing. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights into the nature of power and self-mastery. Until next time, stay aware. In the end, all the noise fades. The words, the faces, the lies, they all dissolve into nothing. What remains is only silence. But this isn't the kind of silence that comforts you. It's the kind that confronts you. It stares back, showing you everything you pretended not to see. Every manipulation you ignored, every truth you buried, every mask you wore just to get by. And in that silence, you meet yourself for the very first time. The real you, stripped of illusion, stripped of weakness, and maybe even stripped of hope. That's the moment the world finally begins to make sense. You realize that everyone is just chasing safety in a place that was never safe to begin with. They desperately seek approval in a world that only respects power. They preach about morality while secretly craving dominance. They call others selfish while plotting their own advantage. The more you observe, the clearer it becomes. Humanity survives not because of some inherent kindness, but because of cold, hard calculation. Behind every handshake, there's a motive. Behind every smile, there's a strategy. Behind every declaration of love, there's a cost. Machiavelli's warning was never just about kings or political courts. It was about the human soul, the battlefield where idealism dies and clarity begins. He saw that people would rather be comforted by convenient lies than be strengthened by inconvenient truths. He knew that power isn't about being cruel. It's about understanding the unspoken rules that govern cruelty. And here's the secret they don't tell you. Morality doesn't protect you. In many ways, it disarms you. It makes you predictable. When you start seeing through that, when you stop being afraid of being misunderstood, you start moving differently. You stop trying to win their approval, and you start earning their respect. And respect that's born from silence is far more powerful than any loud, boastful victory. Because when people cannot read you, they begin to fear you. When they cannot predict your next move, they learn to obey you. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop explaining yourself, you become something they can't manipulate. You become something they can't even define. You become an unknown variable in a world that fears the unknown more than death itself. This is why they never wanted you to know. Because once you understand the game, you no longer play it the same way. You stop chasing things. You learn to let them come to you. You stop begging for peace. You create it within yourself. You stop asking, why me? And you start saying, try me. You stop being another pawn on their board and become the player who built the board itself. But this kind of power, this real power, comes with a heavy cost. It isolates you. It strips away every comfortable illusion until all that's left is your mind, your will, and your shadow. People will call you cold because their attempts to manipulate you no longer work. They'll call you arrogant because they can't control you. They'll call you dangerous because they can't understand you. But that's the price of clarity. You no longer belong to their world of illusions. You no longer feed their need for comfort. You simply exist in your own truth, and truth is a lonely kingdom. Very few ever reach it, and those who do can never return to the world they left behind. Because once you've seen the world for what it really is, you can't unsee it. You begin to walk differently. You speak less, but every word carries weight. You move with purpose, not desperation. You become the storm they never saw coming, silent, precise, and unstoppable. As Machiavelli might tell you, control yourself or you will be controlled. See through the fog of emotion or you will be consumed by it. Choose your silence wisely, because silence is the ultimate weapon of those who no longer need to prove anything to anyone. And when you finally master that silence, when you no longer fear losing people, when you no longer need to be understood, you will find the rarest form of power there is. It's the power of detachment, the power of stillness, the kind of power that cannot be destroyed because it doesn't depend on anyone or anything outside of you. It exists within you quietly, patiently, eternally. And when the world looks into your eyes, it will see something it doesn't understand. Something ancient, something dangerous, something darkly free. It will see a person who knows. And that is the greatest threat of all, not the one who fights loudly, but the one who quietly understands. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the shadows. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into the nature of power and the human condition. Stay sharp and stay silent. Listen closely, because what you're about to hear isn't comfort, it's truth. The kind of truth that whispers to you in the dead of night when you can't sleep. The kind that strips away every illusion until all that's left is a clarity so sharp it almost hurts. You start to see that everything around you is a grand performance. People wear masks, not because they enjoy deceit, but because they are terrified of being exposed. That kind neighbor, that righteous leader, that loyal friend, they are all playing roles rehearsed by generations before them. Society isn't a structure. It's a stage built on fragile, rehearsed performances. And the ones who dare to peek behind the curtain, they're always labeled cold, cynical, heartless. Why? Because they threaten the illusion that keeps everyone else comfortable. Machiavelli's warnings weren't meant to make you cruel. They were meant to wake you up. He wanted you to understand that compassion without control is weakness, that morality without awareness is just a tool for manipulation, that trust without observation leads to self-destruction. He wanted you to stop bleeding for a world that feeds on raw emotion, to stop apologizing for seeing through the lies. He wanted you to survive, not as a puppet, but as an architect of your own life. Once you start thinking this way, you no longer see people as good or evil. You just see their motives. You see fear disguised as kindness. You see the hunger for control hidden in declarations of love. You see how people crave power even as they preach humility. You realize that every word spoken in public has a private intention behind it, and this doesn't make you bitter. It makes you precise. You stop expecting loyalty from the fearful, honesty from the desperate, or integrity from the ambitious. You understand that people act from their needs, not from some noble ideal. This realization changes everything. You stop overreacting. You stop begging to be understood. You stop wasting your energy trying to explain what others simply aren't ready to hear. Instead, you observe. You adapt. You evolve. You become what Machiavelli described as the fox and the lion, wise enough to see the trap and strong enough to break it. As this awareness grows, something else remarkable happens. Your emotions stop ruling you. The same pain that used to destroy you now becomes a lesson. The same betrayal that once broke you now strengthens your focus. You start using your wounds as data. You realize that pain isn't your enemy, it's just information. Every disappointment, every rejection, every loss carries a hidden code. And once you learn to read it, nothing can truly harm you again. That's when you become dangerous. Not because you want to destroy, but because you cannot be destroyed. You can walk through chaos without losing your center. You remain calm while others are losing control. You don't react to attacks because you know every reaction is a gift of power to your opponent. You learn that silence is the highest form of control. When you master that silence, people begin to sense something different in you. Something unshakable, something almost inhuman. They won't understand what changed. They'll just feel it. They'll feel the stillness in your presence, the weight in your gaze, the precision in your words. You will no longer need to demand respect. It will be given naturally because people instinctively respect what they cannot predict. But the irony of this transformation is that the closer you move toward mastery, the lonelier the path becomes. Power isolates. Not because others hate you, but because they fear you. They fear what they can't manipulate. They fear what they can't define. You become a mirror reflecting their own weaknesses, and most people can't bear to see themselves that clearly. So they'll call you names arrogant, cold, emotionless, because labeling you is easier than trying to understand you. Yet, in this solitude, you will find a strange and profound peace. The noise that once distracted you will fade into background static. The opinions that once hurt you will become distant echoes. You'll look at the chaos of the world, the desperation, the lies, the endless craving for validation, and you'll realize you no longer belong to it. You've outgrown it. You've stepped beyond it. And that's when you finally understand Machiavelli's real message. Enlightenment is unfound in the light, but in the darkness. The world teaches you to seek comfort, but wisdom lives in discomfort. Power doesn't emerge from perfection, but from pain. You must lose everything false to gain what is real. You must burn away the old to see clearly. So when the world grows quiet and you sit alone with your thoughts, remember this silence is not emptiness. It's the sound of transformation. It's the sound of your old self dying so that something stronger can be born. That's what they never wanted you to know. That real power isn't about control over others, it's about liberation from yourself. It's not about ruling the world, it's about no longer being ruled by it. And when you reach that point, when nothing external can shake you, when no insult can touch you, when no failure can define you, you will finally understand what it means to be truly free, free from illusion, free from fear, free from the need to be understood. You will walk through the world as a shadow of quiet dominance, calm, unreadable, untouchable. Because the greatest power is not to control others. The greatest power is to need nothing from them. And that, Machiavelli would whisper, is the secret they were never supposed to let you know. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that challenges the way you see the world. Stay sharp.